All right, just as a recap, these are the three that we did. That was the first one with the end grain, very delicate. That's the second one. That was that was a limp noodle to start with. That's the burl end piece, and that was the very tough piece of wood. And I was able to roll it successfully without getting to this part. Now, after you have this dry, you have your pieces like this, 1-inch diameter. This is when another piece is going to come in real handy. Let me go grab it real quick. All right, let's introduce you to the ring size guide. Now, I'm only interested in one in here. That is the US size right here. I've never used any of these other ones, but this one has plenty of them. I don't know what they all stand for, but here's the US ring size guide. It goes all the way up to size 15 and almost a half. Hello, there's our accent piece. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm looking for this inside tail. You remember I didn't sand these down. In hindsight, I really should have, but the way I make these, I don't need to. So if I was making single piece rings, I would have had that inside tail sanded already to create a taper. But since I'm not doing that, I am grabbing it, and I can put a lot of force to it, and I can start twisting, decreasing the circle. More. 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 That's quite a bit, isn't it? What size ring is that? Size 2. So as you can see, you can get that to any size that you want. I'm going to release the pressure. It's going to come undone like a spring. Now, because there are gaps in here, because of other factors, I'm actually going to go to 8.5 to make it a size 9. I could release a little bit. There we go. Size 8.5. Okay, so you may go, oh no, that's not enough pressure. This is too loose in here. Yep, probably is. But we're not gluing the whole thing together. We're just locking this radius right here. Insert the thick glue. Yeah. A little dab will do ya. Bloop. Yeah. All right. Hold it in place. It says to hold it in place for 30 seconds, and you don't need to watch me do that. Okay. There it is. Stop rolling. Stop moving. There we go. Okay, there it is, holding itself together. And yes, it's loosely bound. We're not done with it. Okay, so let's take a look at some of this. Oops, almost dropped that. Now that it is dry, right here, we're holding a form. And that is the only place where I have glue. I grab it and twist it back. Same technique. As far as it'll go. The wood will creak, squeak. That's as good as it's going to get. And if you are rolling this, as other individuals do on, say, a nut or a nut driver, there's only so far you can go with this before you're just spinning your wheels. You're not getting anywhere. Now, we use the super thick on the outside. Ooh, ultra zoom in on the finger. We use the super thick on the outside, and on the inside, we're going to use the medium thick. Star Bond labels them. Instead of saying thick, they go by this EM rating. EM 150 is that relatively thick. EM 02, super fast, super thin, is the very thin. So this medium is going to be just right to get in there and get us some adhesion. But before I do that, move. Let's get a protective mat down. Hello, silicone mat. That is absorbing very slowly into the wood. That started out as a bead on top, and now is just soaked into the wood completely. And I'm going to give it a companion bead right here. Very slowly putting it on here, and the wood is absorbing it completely. I'm also keeping a little bit of a distance from it because I'm going to be honest with you, when this stuff starts to dry, it's going to ruin your day. It's going to sting the eyes. Okay. Oh, it's beginning to dry. I can smell it. It smells terrible. This is the part that I hate the most, and it's the most annoying. But as it dries, it's going to get warmer. Reason why I do it one drop at a time, because when it stops absorbing, you have too much, and that'll cause problems too. So go slow. Okay, it's absorbing a lot slower now. Watching it go, you can see it pooling right there. It's a lot easier to see on the darker one than it is the lighter one, but I'm looking at a different angle and I can see it just fine. So now it takes time to cure. This could take 30 minutes to an hour. Fully cure can take all night long. So while we're letting that sit there, and now that I have super glue on my fingers, we're going to look at something else. Okay. You might have noticed that the shape of these rings are different than others, especially the ones that Happy Adam did. That is a definite angle. It's flat on the edges, and it's neat. I like that. But I also like it thin here on the band, because when I wear the ring, which this one is mine, actually, that I wear, it's got the thin band. When I wear it, I can actually make a fist without it getting into the way of anything and still keeping a nice emblem on that side. Incidentally, that one right there is going to have this emblem on it. I experimented with different types. This one isn't as thin as I like it, but it's still nice. These two show my modern step. It's got a definite flare to where the face is a lot larger. There are other methods that I do on here, but I'm not covering those today. I'm just covering the simple rounds. And thin band, thick face. These rings are pretty strong. I'm squeezing it right now. I've got no deformation. And whew, they're drying now. I'm going to touch it real quick. I can smell them. Okay, so with that thin band, wide face, this is the display face. This goes on your finger, so that way it offers you more mobility. Most types, the rings that I see on them have a thick band on the bottom. I'm not a fan of thick bands. In fact, I wear this one for a couple of hours and then I have to take it off because I don't like things between my fingers. It's a pet peeve of mine. So that's why I generally don't wear rings. But when I do, I wear that one. I wear it driving or whatever. This one is too small for me. It only fits my pinky. These I do not do engravings on, primarily because the focus of an Arborer Special is to have the wood qualities show up and be what's showing off, being what's shown off on it. Goodness gravy, you could tell it's late because I can't speak proper. Bleh. Good night, everybody. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Okay, it's a new day. It's a new way. I do not know the way. I just know a way. Um, Here we are with our glue. This is talking about silicone mat. It does not stick to it at all. Well, it did stick to it well enough that I had to pull it off, and once it was pulled off, this was left behind, and that comes off very easily. So now we're at the point of examining our mess. We're going to make rings out of this, and this is how I have the pairs. I'm just going to use those two, and I went ahead and grabbed this, and I'm going to use that as the, is it this one or another one? Or is this one? Well, regardless, I was going to use a different wood, and I can't remember what I made my mind up with. I have this one over here too, so I'm using that one between something. Yeah, I think that's what it was, like that. Anyway, here is a ring that I am going to make an emblem out of, in the same style as this one. Here are the two pieces, and a cat. Well, you got patents before I came out here. And we're going to make this, and these two are going to make that. Of course, those two burls are going to make that. All right, and what else was I going to do? Do I like that dark burl with that brown on the outside? I could do a combination. So basically, I have these other forms that I've cut layers out to do other things with. This is actually used as a top of a mug. And I used 3 pieces from this one, and that became a mug. It's been given away to somebody else for a present, so now I can't make rings out of this because it is too short, but I could use it as end caps. Okay, so these burls have to get to this shape here. And in order to do that, I have to take that and sand it down. You can take your piece of sandpaper and do this until the cows come home. It's just fine. I see a lot of people doing that for their standard rings, and there's nothing wrong with this, but you have to remember to start with a high grit sandpaper. This is 220, it says so right there. I need a higher grit sandpaper. I want to do that with 100 or 60 or 80, because there is a lot of material to remove, and I don't want to spend all day sanding. There's a bit to remove from there. So higher grit sandpaper, then work to the lower grit. Higher grit to just work out a whole bunch of material. And this form I worked out various ways. You may think that this one was done on a belt sander like I did this one, but that would be incorrect. This one I did by hand. I used a file to make the general shape, and well, that's it. I used a file, and once I got to the shape that I wanted, I kept it. I didn't make this as thin as I actually like, so that ring is thicker than I prefer, so I will make another one eventually. So getting into the shape that you want, that is all in the realm of your ability and your preferences. I like different shapes on my rings, like these and these. I don't like them to be just round. Quite a bit more to go. Ow! Ow! Meow! If you're any YouTuber out there saying, pet your cat, I'm petting my cat. Got your love. Back sanding. Okay. Back to my mess. Alright. So after a bit of sanding and cleaning, because I had a mess here, there are some spots in here like this, but that's going to go away. I went ahead and did both sides, and you can see where some of the trouble spots are. Some of these raised areas doesn't make for the best side of a ring. So at this point in time, I'm discerning which side is outside, which side is inside, and this ugly side is going to be the inside. Where's your companion piece? Why do I have... Oh, yeah. Oh, did I not do that side? Just did this side. I forgot to do a side. We'll pretend that didn't happen. Okay. Wow, I didn't do the side. Okay, well, I guess we made up our own mind. They're going to be married like that. Where did you go? You and you. Okay. Bloop. Broke my own rule. I did one side. Oh well, let's get impatient. I was doing this and the glue was being exposed to air and spontaneously drying at the same time. Oh, that stinks. I hate it. Burns your nose. Okay, here is the burl pieces. They're looking pretty good. And I went and grabbed my favorite file. This is a half round file that I have mentioned before in a post. It's a half round because half of it is round, the other side is flat. And this is going to be a primary tool to shape these. Let me start in the middle and start dragging it across like this. And it's going to create a little divot. It's a lot of work. A lot of results for a little bit of work. And you want to keep doing that until you start getting the shape that you want. Do not focus on one side. I can feel it begin to grip on the file, meaning that I have my little divots here. But you want to stop, turn, stop, flip, stop, turn. And you want to keep doing this. And keep doing this until it is the shape that you want it. And here's one reason why I'm going to keep doing it, because it's uneven right now. Oops, that's not intentional. It's uneven on accident. So I'm going to have to make adjustments. That's all right. That's why we're doing this by hand. That's why we're doing it slowly. And that's why you turn, so that you can get even pressure on both sides. And you don't have one side that gets done in too quickly and you pull it out and it's just a gobbed mess. So make adjustments. And oh, one other thing. I am determining the top to be right here, because there's the bottom, there's the top lift, making this is the thickest part. And this is going to be where, come here, big boy. Okay, so there we go. Top, fingers are too dusty. Top, bottom, and as you can see, this one is much thicker than this one. It's an incredible difference in rings. You can get a really thin ring using this technique, and it will work just fine. So we have to keep doing this, and this is going to be a while. Who wants to watch this? You probably do, right? Okay. I'm making these kind of thin, so I'm only going to use one. This is for this. So I'm going to take the larger of the two and find the area that I'm going to need. I can just go straight with my razor blade or X-Acto blade and cut it out, but I am just going to score a mark. Mark scored. There's the line there. There's the line there. And these pieces of wood are so thin. These pieces of wood are so thin you can cut them with a pair of scissors. That's what I was trying to say. Got away from myself. Okay, so hopefully your two sides are relatively flat. All right, one thing, when I did this, I didn't do it the same way, so they're actually in opposite corners. I like to do it with them like this, lined up. So I need to sand a side. And after that, we're going to glue them together like this.